My boyfriend broke up with me. I sat alone on the bus, staring outside the window without crying or making any expression, as if my emotions had already become numb. Back then, when I was secretly dating, I didn't dare tell my parents. But now, after getting married, I don't even dare tell my husband that I've fallen in love with someone else. Maybe this is the kind of regret I'll carry for the rest of my life. Although Yen Yunting and I were husband and wife on paper, our relationship had long turned into nothing more than an act for outsiders. We only returned home together during our parents' birthdays or important occasions. Today happened to be my father's birthday. When Yen Yunting came to pick me up, I had just ended a painful breakup call with my boyfriend. My heart was already a mess, but the moment I saw her cold expression, I immediately hid all my emotions and forced myself to act normal. I tried talking to her several times during the ride, hoping to ease the awkward atmosphere, but she either ignored me completely or answered with careless one-word replies. In the end, I lost patience and turned silent as well. Originally, my breakup had already ruined my mood, but Yen Yunting's attitude made me feel even more irritated and suffocated. At that moment, Yen Yunting's phone suddenly rang. She didn't even avoid me before answering it directly. A soft, pitiful female voice came from the other side. "Husband, my hand is injured. I'm bleeding so much. Can you come?" Yen Yunting frowned slightly and replied coldly, "If it's serious, go to the hospital yourself." But the girl immediately begged again in a trembling voice, "Please, if you don't come, I'll really die. I was wrong about last night." After a brief silence, Yen Yunting sighed softly. "Wait downstairs. I'm coming." I instantly looked at her in disbelief. "Yen Yunting, today is my dad's birthday." She calmly held the steering wheel and answered without emotion, "I'll just go take a look. It won't take long." Her tone was so casual that it felt like humiliating me didn't matter at all. Before, I tolerated her fooling around outside because at least she still hid it from me. But now, she didn't even plan to leave me the last bit of dignity. When we arrived, I almost laughed from anger after seeing the girl's so-called injury. The wound on her hand was barely visible. Honestly, when I accidentally cut my nails at home, it looked more serious than this. Yet Yen Yunting crouched beside her carefully, disinfecting and bandaging the tiny scratch with unbelievable patience and gentleness. The kind of gentleness I had once desperately wanted from her. The young girl noticed me standing nearby and immediately smiled weakly. "Sorry, Sister Shun. I delayed your time." Mystery got worried after hearing I was injured and rushed over immediately. "Please don't misunderstand him." So she knew exactly who I was. I crossed my arms and smiled faintly. "You know me." The girl nodded nervously. "I interned at the head office before. I heard colleagues mention you." She looked very young, probably someone who had just graduated from college. Compared to Yen Yunting's previous lovers, her tricks looked childish and naive. Still, men always liked girls like this. I looked directly into her eyes and said calmly, "If she truly cared about you, she wouldn't bring her wife here to meet you." The girl's face instantly turned pale while Yen Yunting frowned slightly and interrupted coldly, "Enough." Only Yen Yunting could do something this ridiculous, bringing her wife to meet her lover. After leaving the hospital, we got back into the car. I leaned lazily against the seat and asked casually, "She's young, pretty, and obedient. Why share her with others?" Yen Yunting chuckled softly while driving. "She's too clingy." I mocked lightly, "And she doesn't want your money?" After a short silence, Yen Yunting answered quietly, "She wants love." Hearing those words felt like someone stabbed directly into my chest, because throughout our marriage, Yen Yunting gave everyone houses, cars, expensive gifts, and money but never love. Suddenly, I understood everything. "You deliberately brought me there today," I whispered coldly. "You wanted to use me to get rid of her." Yen Yunting glanced at me, but didn't deny it. I laughed softly in self-mockery before asking the question I had hidden in my heart for years. "So, when will you bring the man outside that I've never met?" The car instantly became quiet. "You don't need to hide it anymore," I continued calmly. "I already know there's someone outside you too. If you have time someday, bring him out. We can even drink tea together." Yen Yunting looked at me with obvious surprise in her eyes because she truly didn't care whether I had someone else outside or not. But what she didn't know was that the person I was secretly in love with was her best friend, Ji Yanli. Yen Yunting and I had once been the perfect couple everyone envied. From school uniforms to wedding dresses, we had spent 8 years together. At first, when I discovered her cheating, I completely lost control. I cried, screamed, smashed things, and forced her to break up with every woman outside. Yen Yunting actually did it too. She even sent some of them away from hooching forever. But within days, there would always be another one. Again and again, endlessly repeating. Until one day, she finally looked at me tiredly and said, "Shen Yen, we've been together for 8 years. I know exactly how you react when I touch you, how your breathing changes, even your habits in bed. Life like this is boring. As long as we don't divorce, why don't we both live more freely and stop interfering with each other?" I rejected her proposal immediately, but after that, Yen Yunting stopped hiding anything completely. Sometimes she even brought women home while I wasn't there. One night, after I lost control and smashed a vase, Yen Yunting grabbed my wrist angrily and shouted, "Get out, Shen Yen. No one can tolerate your behavior forever." After she left with that woman, the house suddenly became painfully quiet. That was when I realized my kitten was missing. The little cat Yen Yunting and I had raised together for years had disappeared. I searched downstairs like crazy until I finally found her lying in a pool of blood. Her tiny body had already turned stiff and cold. My hands trembled violently as I picked her up. When Yen Yunting returned, I looked at her with bloodshot eyes and shouted, "That woman threw her downstairs. That was the cat we raised together. Yen Yunting, do you even have a heart?" Yen Yunting stayed silent for a long time before finally saying softly, "I'll compensate you." That same night, she really bought another identical kitten and placed it in front of me, but no matter how similar it looked, it was never my cat anymore. And it was also that same night, while drinking alone at a bar and trying to numb the pain in my chest, that I met Yen Yunting's best friend, Ji Yanli. Ji Yanli was completely different from Yen Yunting. While Yen Yunting was arrogant and flamboyant, Ji Yanli was low-key, restrained, and almost untouchable. In our social circle, she was famously known as the high mountain flower that no one could reach. Beautiful, distant, and impossible to approach. Countless people tried to pursue her, but everyone failed miserably. That night at the bar, I personally watched her reject 13 people in a row without changing her expression once. She sat quietly in the corner wearing a black shirt, her long fingers lazily holding a wine glass, looking cold enough to make others afraid of approaching. Maybe it was the alcohol, or maybe I was too heartbroken after everything Yen Yunting had done, but for the first time in my life, I gathered the courage to walk toward someone first. I stopped beside her table and smiled faintly. Ji Yanli, what a coincidence. She slowly raised her eyes and looked at me calmly without speaking. Under the dim light, her gaze felt dangerously deep, almost enough to make people lose control. Honestly, I can't clearly remember what happened afterward. I only remember waking up the next morning inside Ji Yanli's villa. Sunlight poured through the curtains while my head throbbed painfully. The moment I opened my eyes, I froze completely. Why am I here? Ji Yanli stood by the window wearing a loose white shirt, looking elegant even casually. Hearing my voice, she turned around slowly and answered calmly. Last night, you held on to me and refused to let go. I blinked blankly, and then, Ji Yanli walked closer step by step before slightly leaning down toward me. Her lips curved faintly. Then you succeeded. My brain instantly crashed. Succeeded? What does that mean? Ji Yanli looked at my confused expression for 2 seconds before suddenly laughing softly. Exactly what you think it means. My face instantly burned red. I sat on the bed completely stunned while Ji Yanli calmly placed breakfast beside me. I don't know whether it suits your taste. Eat something first. Her tone was so natural that it made me even more flustered. After a long silence, she finally asked quietly, what do you plan to do now? I subconsciously looked up. What do you mean? Ji Yanli crossed her arms and stared directly into my eyes. Don't you think you should take responsibility for what happened last night? Hearing that sentence, I became nervous instantly. Ji Yanli, you know I already have a husband. Her expression instantly turned cold. Then why did you provoke me last night? My throat tightened. Before I could answer, she continued calmly. If you divorce Yen Yunting, I can consider being with you. But I won't be someone's mistress. The room suddenly became quiet. I lowered my head helplessly. I can't divorce for now. After a pause, I looked at her carefully and whispered almost shamelessly. But you can still be my boyfriend. My husband is my husband, and my boyfriend is my boyfriend. They don't conflict with each other, right? The moment those words came out, even I felt ridiculous. Ji Yanli stared at me silently for several seconds before suddenly laughing angrily. Without another word, she walked to the door, opened it directly, and coldly asked me to leave. I thought that was the end between us. After all, someone like Ji Yanli would never tolerate such humiliation. Unexpectedly, 2 months later, late at night, I suddenly received a phone call from her. Her voice sounded unusually low and hoarse, as if she had drunk a lot. Shen Yan! Hearing her voice, my heart immediately tightened. Why won't you divorce Yen Yunting? I stayed silent for a long time before answering softly, because this marriage doesn't only involve the two of us. It also involves both our families and too many business interests. The other side became quiet. After a while, Ji Yanli laughed bitterly. Then what am I supposed to do? Her voice sounded exhausted and wrong for the first time ever. You were the one who provoked me first. Shouldn't you take responsibility for me? My fingers tightened around the phone unconsciously. After a long silence, I finally whispered, if you agree to my proposal, then I'll be responsible for you. The call suddenly became completely silent. I didn't hang up. I just quietly waited for her answer while my heartbeat became louder and louder. After what felt like forever, Ji Yanli finally spoke softly. Okay, I accept. After that night, Ji Yanli officially became the secret hidden in my life. We traveled abroad together, watched movies hand in hand like ordinary couples, secretly celebrated birthdays, and ate late-night meals together in quiet restaurants. Ji Yanli was unbelievably gentle and well-behaved. No matter when I called her, she would appear immediately without complaint. She never acted spoiled excessively, never caused trouble for me, and most importantly, she never mentioned divorce again. Sometimes, looking at her quietly reading beside me under warm light, I almost forgot how ugly my marriage with Yen Yunting had become. Until one day, everything suddenly changed. During a business trip, I got into a serious car accident. At that time, the notes in my phone contacts were all simple names, but Ji Yanli's contact note was different. I had secretly saved it as boyfriend. So after the accident, when the police searched through my emergency contacts, they directly called Ji Yanli first. By the time I regained a little consciousness inside the hospital, my entire body hurt terribly. The doctor needed a family member to sign documents, so in my dazed state, I whispered weakly to Ji Yanli, call Yen Yunting. My parents are too old. Don't let them come this late. But when I finally woke up again the next morning, the first person I saw sitting beside my bed was actually my mother. Her eyes were swollen red from worry. After asking me countless concerned questions, she finally left temporarily to buy breakfast. The moment the ward became quiet, I immediately looked toward Ji Yanli sitting beside the window. Her face looked pale and exhausted, with obvious dark circles under her eyes. It was clear she hadn't slept all night. Why is my mom here? I asked weakly. Ji Yanli lowered her eyes quietly before answering. I called Yen Yunting many times, but she never answered. So I had no choice except contacting your aunt. Hearing that, I suddenly laughed bitterly at myself. Of course, Yen Yunting probably thought I was bothering her again, so naturally she ignored every call. After years of cheating and endless arguments, the number of times she answered my phone had almost become zero. Suddenly, Ji Yanli looked directly at me. Her eyes were red, filled with exhaustion and suppressed emotions. Shen Yan divorce Yan Yanting. I froze completely. Unlike those women outside Yan Yanting, Ji Yanli had always been obedient and understanding. She rarely pressured me, and she almost never mentioned divorce after accepting our relationship. So hearing those words from her mouth now shocked me deeply. Ji Yanli slowly stood up and walked closer to the hospital bed. Her voice trembled, slightly for the first time. I don't want to continue being a shameful mistress anymore. Her eyes gradually became redder as she continued softly. I want to stand beside you openly. She clenched her fingers tightly before lowering her head with a bitter smile. Last night, when the doctor asked me to sign as family, I didn't even have the qualifications to write my name. All I could do was keep calling your husband again and again. But Shen Yan, she looked straight into my eyes. We are not just friends, and I don't want to stay your friend forever. This time, I couldn't say a single word to reject her, because for the first time, I realized how unfair all of this was to Ji Yanli. But at the same time, I also knew clearly that divorcing Yan Yanting was not something easy at all. Seeing my silence, Ji Yanli slowly calmed herself down. Think carefully, she said softly. Either break up with me, or divorce Yan Yanting. Before you make a decision, I won't disturb you again. That day, Ji Yanli arranged everything in the hospital for me personally. She hired the best nurse, prepared meals according to my condition, and even placed several books beside my bed because she knew I hated boredom. Yet after that day, she truly disappeared from my life completely. After being discharged from the hospital, I returned home with Yan Yanting carrying gifts from my father's birthday. For once, my mother personally cooked in the kitchen, while Yan Yanting sat inside the tea room chatting with my father naturally, as if our marriage had never cracked at all. I quietly helped my mother prepare dishes in the kitchen, while listening absent-mindedly to their laughter outside. During dinner, my parents suddenly started talking about the time Yan Yanting and I were still students. My mother laughed warmly. Back then, you two secretly dated thinking nobody knew. But both families noticed it immediately, yet neither of you admitted it. Hearing those words, I suddenly became lost in memories. At that time, Yan Yanting and I truly loved each other desperately. We once believed we would stay together forever. Thinking about it now, life really felt ridiculous. People spend their whole lives regretting things, repeating mistakes while pretending they're happy. The more I thought about it, the more I wanted to laugh at myself. After dinner, my mother suddenly noticed my strange expression. What are you thinking about? You've been secretly smiling to yourself for a while now. I lowered my head quietly. Nothing. But after a long silence, I still gathered the courage to ask softly, Mom, if I divorce Yan Yanting someday, would you and Dad oppose it? My mother's movements paused instantly. After a while, she sighed deeply and gently held my hand. Your father and I actually noticed long ago that something was wrong between you two. You never mentioned divorce before, so we couldn't interfere. Her eyes slowly became red as she looked at me lovingly. Shen Yan, your father and I only have one daughter. No matter what decision you make, we only want you to live happily. My mother gently held my hand and looked at me seriously. No matter what you want to do, as long as you've thought it through carefully, your father and I will support you. Her voice softened even more as she sighed helplessly. Don't keep wronging yourself anymore. Hearing that, my chest tightened painfully. I lowered my eyes and whispered. But if I divorce Yan Yanting, the interest between both families will have to be divided. Dad's company might suffer huge losses because of it. My mother immediately shook her head. That's something your father should worry about, not you. She smiled bitterly and patted my hand gently. You're his daughter. If protecting you means cleaning up a mess afterward, he'll still willingly do it. After a short pause, she added softly. Whatever choice makes you happiest, just do it bravely. Even after hearing that, I still couldn't make up my mind completely. Deep down, I knew too many things were tied together between Yan Yanting and me. It wasn't just about feelings anymore. It involved business, family reputation, and years of shared interests. That night, after dinner ended, Yan Yanting and I left my parents' house together. The atmosphere inside the car remained quiet as usual. But just after leaving the residential area, a figure suddenly rushed directly in front of the car. Fortunately, Yan Yanting reacted quickly and slammed on the brakes in time. My heart nearly stopped from fright. When I looked up carefully, I realized the person blocking the car was the young girl from earlier that day. Her eyes were swollen red from crying as she stood in the middle of the road stubbornly. The moment Yan Yanting rolled down the car window impatiently, the girl immediately shouted emotionally, Yan Yanting, either you divorce him or we break up. Hearing those words, I froze instantly. Yan Yanting frowned coldly. Are you threatening me? The girl shook her head, desperately, while tears streamed down her face. I'm not threatening you. I just can't continue like this anymore. Looking at the girl's crying face, I suddenly thought of Ji Yanli. That day in the hospital, she had looked at me the same way and calmly said, either divorce or break up. The difference was that Ji Yanli never cried or caused a scene. She only quietly stepped back from my life. Meanwhile, Yan Yanting handled things much more ruthlessly than I ever could. She lowered the car window slightly and said calmly, if you want to break up, fine. Her tone was terrifyingly indifferent. I'll ask my assistant to transfer the breakup compensation to your account. The girl instantly panicked. No, I don't want money. She grabbed the car door desperately while crying harder. Yanting, I really love you. I don't want your money, I only want you. Yan Yanting suddenly laughed mockingly. Really? She tilted her head slightly and looked at the girl coldly. If I had no money, would you still choose me? The girl froze immediately. Yan Yanting continued mercilessly. Didn't you break up with your ex-boyfriend because he was poor? The girl's face instantly turned pale. Take the money and leave, Yan Yanting said impatiently. Don't bother me again. Hearing that, the girl finally broke down completely. Brother, I was wrong. She cried desperately while trying to hold on to Yan Yanting. I won't force you to divorce anymore. Please don't abandon me. Yin Yunting's face remained expressionless. Get out! Watching everything happen right in front of me, my heart felt unbelievably cold. As Yin Yunting's legal spouse, technically I should have felt happy watching her dump another lover. But instead, all I felt was sadness. Because I understood Yin Yunting too well. When she treated someone nicely, she could say countless sweet words about love and forever. Back then, when she chased me, she also made endless promises and swore she would love me for life. At that time, I foolishly believed we would stay together forever. But now I finally understood clearly. Love didn't truly exist for Yin Yunting at all. Today she could say she loved you more than anything, and tomorrow she would say the exact same thing to someone else. In the end, Yin Yunting only loved herself. Living an entire lifetime beside someone like that suddenly felt unbearably tragic. After a long silence, I finally turned toward her and said quietly, Yin Yunting, let's get divorced. She immediately frowned. What are you making trouble about now? I'm not making trouble, I answered calmly. I'm serious. Yin Yunting looked annoyed and lit a cigarette casually. She knew very well that I hated the smell of smoke, yet she still ignored my feelings completely. After taking a slow drag, she asked coldly, because of that girl just now? I shook my head. No. After a brief pause, I continued quietly, the person I'm keeping outside also asked me to divorce you. Yin Yunting's hand holding the cigarette paused slightly. She said if I don't divorce you, she'll break up with me. Yin Yunting immediately laughed lightly. Then break up with her. Find another one. If you can't find one, I'll even help you. Hearing that, I looked directly into her eyes for the first time in years. I'm different from you. My voice became softer but firmer. I really like her. I don't want to break up. So let's divorce. The smile on Yin Yunting's face slowly disappeared. She stared at me silently before speaking in a colder tone. Shen Yan, don't be naive. People outside are just for fun. She exhaled smoke slowly and continued. You know exactly how many interests are tied between our families. If we divorce, Li Shun Group alone will lose hundreds of millions. I lowered my eyes calmly. Maybe, but we still have to reach this step eventually. Yin Yunting's gaze gradually turned dangerous. Is that woman forcing you? If she wants money, just give her some. If you can't handle it, I can help you deal with her myself. Hearing that, I instantly became angry. She's not like your lovers. My voice unconsciously rose. She doesn't lack money, and I can't bear losing her. The moment those words left my mouth, the atmosphere inside the car completely froze. Yin Yunting narrowed her eyes slightly. So you're really tempted? I stayed silent for several seconds before answering honestly. Yes. After that, I directly took out the divorce agreement file from my bag and placed it in front of her. The lawyer already prepared everything. Read it when you have time. Yin Yunting didn't even glance at the documents. Instead, she suddenly asked coldly, who exactly are you keeping outside? I looked away calmly. That has nothing to do with you. Didn't you say it yourself years ago? Everyone should play their own game without interfering. After saying that, I directly opened the car door. I'll take a taxi back myself. Before leaving, I calmly added one last sentence. Once the file is finalized, I'll contact you again. The moment I stepped out of the car, someone suddenly ran toward me quickly. Before I could react, Ji Yanli grabbed my wrist tightly and looked at me nervously. The message you sent earlier, was it true? I looked at her quietly and nodded. Yes. At that moment, Yin Yunting also got out of the car angrily. Her expression turned terrifying the moment she saw Ji Yanli standing beside me. Don't tell me. Her voice suddenly became colder. The person you've been keeping outside is my brother. Ji Yanli immediately stepped forward and blocked me behind her naturally. Does it matter who it is? She said coldly. Move aside. Yin Yunting's face darkened instantly. Important. Ji Yanli suddenly laughed mockingly. Of course it's important. She looked directly into Yin Yunting's eyes and said word by word, at least I didn't sleep with your best friend. The air instantly froze. Even I became stunned by her words. Yin Yunting's face darkened completely. Ji Yanli. Ji Yanli didn't back down at all. Instead, she smiled even colder. Yin Yunting, the reason you never touched Shen Yan's best friend isn't because you're noble. It's because they never looked down on you in the first place. Hearing that, Yin Yunting's expression finally cracked slightly. Ji Yanli calmly held my hand tighter and continued. And don't forget, if it weren't for Shen Yan, do you really think someone like you could have climbed to your current position so easily? Yin Yunting suddenly fell completely silent. Even I froze in shock, because the protectiveness in Ji Yanli's words came too suddenly and too fiercely. I stared at her blankly. What did you mean just now? Ji Yanli turned toward me quietly. Literally. My heart skipped a beat. Did we know each other before? Ji Yanli looked at me silently for 2 seconds before finally answering softly. We were classmates in junior high for 3 years. And high school too. I froze completely. I tried desperately recalling my student years, but no matter how hard I thought, I couldn't remember her appearing at all. Seeing my confused expression, Ji Yanli only smiled faintly with bitterness hidden in her eyes. After a long silence, she suddenly asked quietly, Shen Yan, when will you divorce her? I lowered my head briefly before finally answering firmly, tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll officially ask the lawyer to handle all property matters. Then I'll talk to Yin Yunting properly. Ji Yanli stared at me carefully. Are you sure? This time, I nodded without hesitation. Yes. After a short pause, Ji Yanli asked softly again, what if Yin Yunting refuses to divorce? I looked toward the dark night sky calmly. She'll agree. After returning home that night, I finally realized something very clearly. Some relationships were already broken beyond repair long ago. The only reason they still existed was because neither side had the courage to end them first. Ji Yanli held my hand tightly under the dim streetlight, her fingers trembling slightly, as if she was afraid I would disappear the moment she let go. Her eyes were already red from holding back emotions for too long. After staying silent for a while, she finally spoke in a hoarse voice. When I first found out you were married, I never thought about disturbing your life. She lowered her eyes bitterly and laughed softly at herself. At first, I only wanted to stay far away from you. The night wind blew gently past us, but her voice still sounded painfully clear. But later, I saw Yan Yanting cheating on you with my own eyes. Her breathing became heavier, and then I saw you crying alone. Shen Yan, at that moment, my heart felt like it was being torn apart. I stood there quietly without speaking while Ji Yanli slowly continued telling me everything she had hidden in her heart for years. When my friend introduced Yan Yanting to me for cooperation, I originally wanted to refuse. She laughed softly, but after hearing she was your husband, I still agreed in the end for reasons even I couldn't understand. She paused briefly before continuing. Later, when I saw you drunk alone at the bar that night, I wanted countless times to walk over and tell you to divorce her. I wanted to tell you not to keep hurting yourself anymore. Ji Yanli slowly looked up at me, her eyes filled with pain and helplessness. But what right did I have? We weren't even friends. In your heart, I was probably nothing more than your husband's business partner. Hearing her say those words, my chest suddenly tightened painfully. Ji Yanli smiled bitterly. So when you took the initiative to walk toward me that night, her voice suddenly became softer. You have no idea how happy I was. I stared at her blankly while my heartbeat slowly became chaotic. Then Ji Yanli suddenly laughed weakly and lowered her head. Actually, nothing happened between us that night. I froze completely. What? Ji Yanli's ears slowly turned red from embarrassment. I lied to you. She looked away awkwardly. I was afraid that once you left, we would return to being two completely unrelated strangers forever. Hearing that, I suddenly felt both angry and helpless. Ji Yanli continued quietly. The day you said you didn't want a divorce and wanted me to be your boyfriend instead, her voice gradually became choked with emotion. After you left, I cried alone for a very long time. My fingers unconsciously tightened slightly. Ji Yanli smiled self-mockingly. At that time, I felt like you were humiliating me. After crying enough, I told myself that since you didn't want a divorce, then I should completely cut ties with you. She closed her eyes briefly before continuing softly. But after drinking that night, my mind was full of you. I even slapped myself and forced myself not to think about you anymore. Her eyes gradually became redder. But I still couldn't do it. In the end, I still called you. Ji Yanli looked directly into my eyes as tears slowly rolled down her face. And I willingly said I could become your mistress. At that moment, my heart suddenly hurt so badly that I could barely breathe. Ji Yanli held my hand tightly while crying quietly. For 10 years, her voice trembled violently. I secretly liked you for 10 entire years. I ignored my pride, my dignity, and everything else. She laughed bitterly through tears. In the end, all I had left was you. Hearing that confession, my eyes instantly became red too. Ji Yanli lowered her head helplessly against my shoulder. Shen Yan, her voice sounded broken. Please don't lie to me. And don't bully me anymore. For the next few days, Yan Yanting took the initiative to come find me several times. I understood very clearly why she kept appearing, so every time I avoided her directly. Until finally, after the lawyer finished organizing all the property division documents, I personally carried the file to Yan Yanting's company. The moment I walked toward the president's office, a young female assistant suddenly stopped me arrogantly. Who are you? She looked at me impatiently from head to toe. Can't you read the words outside? This is the president's office, not a vegetable market where anyone can enter casually. Hearing that tone, I immediately understood everything. It seemed Yan Yanting had already found another new lover again. No wonder she dumped that crying little girl so quickly. Before I could speak, another employee nearby suddenly recognized me and panicked immediately. Sister Shun. The employee quickly pulled the assistant aside nervously. Sorry, she's new and doesn't know you. But the assistant still looked unwilling to back down. Why are you scared of her? She muttered unhappily. Everyone already knows President Li's relationship with her wife has broken down. Would President Li really blame me because of her? Hearing those words, I suddenly found it funny. After all, Yan Yanting and I were already preparing for divorce anyway, so there was no need for me to care anymore. I simply pushed open the office door calmly and walked inside. The moment Yan Yanting saw me, her cold expression instantly softened. You finally came. Her tone sounded strangely gentle, as if we were still an ordinary married couple. I've looked for you several times recently, but you always refused to meet me. I didn't answer her directly. Instead, I simply placed the divorce documents onto the table. Sign it. At that moment, the assistant carefully entered while carrying coffee. President Li, your coffee. She shyly glanced toward Yan Yanting before speaking sweetly. I specially prepared it according to your favorite taste. I looked at the scene coldly without saying anything. Yan Yanting immediately frowned impatiently. Leave. The assistant froze slightly, clearly unwilling. But President Li, I still have some work. I said leave. Yan Yanting's tone instantly became colder. The assistant finally bit her lip unwillingly and walked out. After she left, Yan Yanting rubbed her forehead tiredly. She's usually not this rude. Maybe she treated you like an imaginary enemy. She looked at me carefully. If you don't like her, I'll transfer her away later. I immediately interrupted calmly. There's no need. Whether I like her or not doesn't matter anymore. We're getting divorced anyway. After speaking, I pushed the documents toward her again. This is the property division agreement. All the real estate purchased after marriage will belong to you. As for the villas your parents transferred to me before, I already arranged everything to transfer them back. Yan Yanting stared at the documents silently for a long time before suddenly asking hoarsely, do we really have to divorce? I nodded calmly. Yes. Yan Yanting's face instantly darkened. Shen Yan, things don't have to become this ugly. Hearing that, I suddenly laughed bitterly. Not ugly. I slowly raised my eyes to look at her. Yan Yanting, I tolerated you for years. The thing I regret most now is not divorcing you immediately after discovering your affairs outside. Yan Yanting probably still believed I was only throwing another tantrum like before. She leaned back against the chair and sighed impatiently. Is this because of the assistant outside? Before I could answer, she already picked up the phone. Fine. I'll ask HR to fire her immediately, okay? I instantly frowned. This has nothing to do with her. Yan Yanting paused slightly. Then is it because of that little girl before? I already broke up with her completely. She looked at me seriously. You don't need to keep making trouble over those meaningless people anymore. Hearing that, I suddenly felt exhausted. It's not because of anyone. I simply don't want to continue entangling myself with you anymore. The moment those words left my mouth, Yan Yanting suddenly slammed the table angrily. Shen Yan, stop lying to me. Her eyes instantly turned red from anger. You want to divorce me because of Ji Yanli, don't you? The office instantly became silent. Yan Yanting laughed coldly. and looked at me unwillingly. You fell in love with her. How could you fall in love with her? Her voice gradually became more emotional. Who allowed you to love her? Hearing those selfish words, I almost laughed from disbelief. I directly stood up coldly. Don't go crazy in front of me. Since you refuse to sign willingly, then we'll settle this through court. After saying that, I immediately turned around and left the office. When I walked outside the company building, I realized the driver hadn't arrived yet, so I called him. But the moment the call connected, the driver apologized anxiously. Madam, I'm really sorry, my wife is about to give birth tonight, so I can't come pick you up. Hearing his nervous voice, I softened immediately. It's okay. I smiled faintly. Your wife is more important. Stay with her tonight and drive safely. After hanging up, I directly stopped a taxi by the roadside. But just as I finished giving the driver my home address, my phone suddenly rang again. And the name flashing across the screen was Ji Yanli. Just as I finished answering the call, a black car slowly stopped in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Ji Yanli's calm and handsome face. Get in, he said softly. Since it was crab season, Ji Yanli took me to a quiet, private restaurant by the river. The atmosphere inside was warm and peaceful, completely different from the chaos that had surrounded me recently. Soon, a freshly steamed crab was placed on the table. Ji Yanli rolled up his sleeves calmly and began peeling the crab for me with practiced movements. His fingers were long and beautiful, and even peeling crab meat somehow looked elegant and pleasing to the eye. I couldn't help secretly staring at him a few more times. After carefully placing the peeled crab meat into my bowl, Ji Yanli finally looked up at me. Eat. I smiled faintly. Thank you. During the meal, Ji Yanli kept looking at me quietly, making me increasingly nervous for no reason. In the end, I could only force myself to find a topic. You said before that you studied at the affiliated high school too. I looked at him curiously. Why don't I remember you at all? Ji Yanli paused slightly while peeling another crab leg. Not only you, I continued helplessly. After I went back, I even asked several classmates. None of them remembered you either. Hearing that, Ji Yanli finally laughed softly. I only studied there during the first year of high school. After that, my family sent me abroad. I nodded slowly. No wonder, after dinner, Ji Yanli drove me home personally. When we arrived downstairs, I unfastened my seatbelt slowly before subconsciously asking, do you want to come upstairs and sit for a while? The moment those words came out, even I froze slightly. Ji Yanli immediately laughed in a low voice. He leaned lazily against the steering wheel and looked at me meaningfully. Shen Yan, his eyes curved slightly with amusement. Do you know what inviting an adult man upstairs at night means? My ears instantly became hot. Before I could explain awkwardly, Ji Yanli smiled softly again. When you officially get divorced, he looked at me quietly. Then you can invite me to move in. My heartbeat instantly became chaotic again. But before I could answer him, a cold voice suddenly came from nearby. Shen Yan, why are you with him? Both of us turned at the same time. Under the streetlight, Yan Yunting stood beside the car with a terrifyingly ugly expression. I froze slightly because the apartment I lived in had never been visited by Yan Yunting before. I couldn't understand why she suddenly appeared here tonight. Yan Yunting stared at me with red eyes and laughed bitterly. Do you know what day it is today? I frowned slightly without speaking. Yan Yunting slowly clenched her fists. Today is our wedding anniversary. Hearing that, I suddenly became stunned for a moment. Because after being married for so many years, Yan Yunting had never cared about our anniversary before. Unexpectedly, now that I no longer cared about her anymore, she suddenly remembered it. Yan Yunting looked exhausted as she continued hoarsely. I waited outside your door all day. Her gaze slowly shifted toward Ji Yanli beside me. And you actually went out with another man. Hearing her say those words, I suddenly found it ridiculous. Back then, when I cried and fought with her countless times because of her affairs outside, she only thought I was annoying. But now, the roles had finally reversed. I calmly looked at her. Are you done? If you're finished, then please leave. Yan Yunting's expression instantly darkened. Shen Yan, explain clearly. Before I could speak, Ji Yanli suddenly stepped forward and blocked me naturally behind him. His voice remained polite but cold. Presidently, if you want to talk, then talk properly. Don't touch him. Yan Yunting instantly laughed angrily. This is my wife. She stared at Ji Yanli sharply. You have no right to interfere. Ji Yanli remained completely calm. Not for much longer. Hearing that sentence, Yan Yunting's face finally lost control completely. Are you even human? She shouted angrily. Seeing that she was about to lose control and start fighting, I immediately stopped her coldly. Have you caused enough trouble? I looked directly into her eyes. Yan Yunting, if you don't want to spend tonight at the police station, leave immediately. After all, our families still know each other. If this gets bigger, nobody will look good. In the end, I directly called security to drag Yan Yunting away. Even while being pulled back, she still stared at Ji Yanli with unwilling hatred in her eyes. After everything finally became quiet again, I turned around and looked at Ji Yanli beside me. The fearless and indifferent expression he showed while facing Yan Yunting earlier had completely disappeared. Now he lowered his head quietly, looking like a pitiful puppy that had suffered a huge grievance. I couldn't help laughing softly. What's wrong? Ji Yanli remained silent for a while before speaking in a low voice. Just now, she said you were her wife. He laughed bitterly at himself. That one sentence felt like an entire army crushing me. Hearing that, my heart softened instantly. Ji Yanli slowly raised his eyes and looked at me quietly. Shen Yan, when will I be able to confidently tell people who covered you? His voice became softer and softer. That you're my wife. The night breeze suddenly felt unbelievably gentle. I looked at him for a long time before finally whispering softly, soon. Yan Yunting refuses to sign the divorce agreement right now. But this weekend, I'll go visit her parents personally. That weekend, I directly went to the Li family mansion carrying all the prepared documents. The moment I entered, I calmly looked at Yan Yunting's parents and spoke honestly. Uncle, Aunt, you both already know she has people outside. If she still refuses to divorce, then next week I'll officially go through judicial procedures. Before I could finish speaking, sudden footsteps sounded from upstairs. Yan Yunting rushed down the stairs emotionally, grabbed the documents from my hands, and tore them apart instantly. I said I won't divorce. Her eyes were bloodshot red as she stared at me stubbornly. You think divorcing me means you could openly be with Ji Yanli? Don't even dream about it. Seeing her completely lose control, I finally felt exhausted instead of angry. Yan Yanting suddenly rushed forward and grabbed my wrist tightly. Shun Yan, her voice trembled violently. I know I was wrong. Can you give me one more chance? She held my wrist tighter and tighter. As long as you separate from Ji Yanli, I promise I'll stay by your side properly from now on. Hearing those words, I slowly laughed bitterly. Yan Yanting, I already gave you countless chances before. Yan Yanting froze slightly. Looking at her stunned face, I finally revealed the secret I had hidden for years. Do you remember the time I came to find you at the hotel after someone sent me your photos with another woman? Yan Yanting's face instantly changed slightly. I continued calmly. That day, I had just found out I was pregnant. The entire living room suddenly became deathly silent. Yan Yanting's pupils shrank violently. My voice became quieter. I originally wanted to tell you the good news, but before I could speak, I lowered my eyes slowly. After you pushed me away, the baby was gone. Yan Yanting instantly froze completely. Her face turned pale in seconds. That day, after I fell, I looked at her calmly. I told you my stomach hurt. I begged you not to leave, but you never even looked back. Yan Yanting's breathing instantly became chaotic. I didn't know. Her voice sounded hoarse and broken. Shun Yan, I really didn't know, but this time, I no longer felt any sadness. I only felt tired. When I turned to leave, Yan Yanting didn't stop me anymore. Behind me, a loud slap suddenly echoed throughout the room. Yan Yanting's mother stood there trembling angrily after slapping her daughter hard across the face. Yan Yanting, her eyes instantly became red. Are you still even human? How did I raise such a terrible child? Her voice trembled with disappointment. You're exactly like your father when he was young. Yan Yanting's parents had always wanted grandchildren desperately, but the child they dreamed of had been personally destroyed by Yan Yanting herself. After leaving the community, I unexpectedly ran into one of my old high school classmates. The classmate smiled warmly after seeing me. What a coincidence. After chatting briefly, she suddenly remembered something. By the way, a few days ago I heard you were asking people about Ji Yanli. I nodded slightly. I heard he studied at our affiliated high school too, but I had no impression of him. Hearing that, the classmate laughed immediately. You really forgot. Back then, when you were a freshman, he sat right behind you. I froze slightly. The classmate continued smiling. At that time, Ji Yanli was a little chubby. Then suddenly one day, his family sent him abroad. Hearing that, a blurry figure finally appeared slowly inside my memories. A slightly chubby teenage boy. Every time I turned around to talk to him casually, his face would instantly become red like an apple. The classmate sighed emotionally. Honestly, he changed a lot. Now he's tall, handsome, and even opened his own company. After a short pause, she smiled teasingly. Do you want his contact information? My husband works with him often. I immediately shook my head with a helpless smile. No need. The classmate hesitated briefly before suddenly speaking again. Actually, there's one more thing I don't know whether I should tell you. I looked at her curiously. She sighed awkwardly. Before Ji Yanli went abroad, he wrote you a love letter. My heartbeat instantly paused. He asked me to pass it to you, she smiled apologetically. But I accidentally lost it back then. For a moment, I suddenly felt an indescribable ache inside my chest. So, Ji Yanli had already liked me since that long ago. I lowered my eyes quietly and smiled faintly. It's okay. It's already in the past. Finally, on the day I officially received the divorce certificate, Ji Yanli acted unusually calm the entire time. But although his expression remained indifferent, the corners of his lips secretly lifted all day without falling once. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, he carefully placed the divorce certificate into his pocket like a priceless treasure and refused to take it out again. Looking at him like that, I couldn't help laughing. Suddenly, Ji Yanli quietly pulled me into his arms. I looked up at him helplessly. What's so good about this? Ji Yanli lowered his head and smiled softly beside my ear. The weather is good. The wind is good. After a short pause, his eyes slowly softened as he looked at me lovingly. And you're finally mine too. If love hurts you, never settle for less than you deserve. Sometimes, letting go is the real beginning of happiness. Bret Hart, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon for more emotional romance stories every day.